Hey guys, Prowl1701 here, and today we're going to be reviewing part 2 of Snakedance with the Fifth Doctor. And right off the bat, I have to say, I liked it. And I know there's a few of you who may need a moment to pick yourselves up out of your chair, because surely you have fallen out of it. Trust me, there's no one else besides me who's more going, you what? But I actually did enjoy part 2. I think it utilizes its time really well, and a lot of things happen, and a lot of good things happen. One, it picks back up with a recap of the cliffhanger to part 1, which I mentioned in my part 1 review. I really liked. I did like that cliffhanger. So getting the reprisal of that is nice. Seeing the fake psychic woman stunned and had to be led away. Pretty cool. I want to go ahead and mention that I really liked the cliffhanger to part 2. That shot of Tegan with her eyes glowing red is a really good shot. And just that smile she has on her face, really good cliffhanger. I really like the fact they got her eyes glowing red and it actually looks like her eyes. It's not that painted on fake eyes look that I've talked about before I don't like in like Image of the Findal and Keeper of Traken. I never like it. It never works. So they obviously did something here to make it look like her real eyes were glowing. At least that's the way it looks to me. And that comes off looking really good. That was a really neat effect. I found myself going, like that cliffhanger. They're 2 for 2. I like that Davison in this story is very on the ball coming up with things. His acting is really good here. He's very Tennant-like with his energy. There's a lot of 10th Doctor in him vibes coming from him here with his energy. He has a lot going on. I enjoy a lot of the stuff how he's constantly coming up with a new idea. That doesn't work. Come up with a new idea. That's not working. Come up with a new idea. He's very on the ball on this one. The guest cast, for the most part, aren't overly impressing me. The guy who's kind of the son of the famous guy, the one that also gets Amara on his arm, he's good. I like him. And then the kind of assistant to the guy who's kind of running things, I like him. The guy who, when the guy who's running things is wearing the helmet with the faces on it, the doctor has him counting the faces. I like him, the assistant. He's really good. I did enjoy the scene with the faces, the 6 faces. I mean, it seems kind of obvious. I mean, that's something you kind of like, okay, the guy running things isn't overly bright if he can't figure this out. It does seem a bit obvious. But I still like the scene nonetheless. Davison pulls it off really well just with his performance. And when he has him count the 6th one, and then that bit at the end when he's like, which was probably rather the point, don't you think? I do like that. That was pretty neat. Janet Fielding is really good as the Mara. It's kind of neat at the beginning seeing her kind of bounce back and forth between Tegan and the Mara a little. The first time we see Tegan in the mirror and the face changes to the snake skull, that's a really cool effect. It looks really neat the first time. Now, when you see it later and it's kind of talking with its jaw moving, it doesn't work. That part doesn't work. But that first shot of it is pretty creepy looking. And seeing the Mara and Tegan kind of talking and the Mara kind of trying to manipulate Tegan. It's good acting on Janet's part. I do like her in this, even though sometimes she just has to have that expressionless look on her face. She does it well. I was really pleased with her performance. Nyssa continues to be useless. That's Nissa's new name, Useless. We're just going to call her Useless from now on. Don't tell Josh I said that. We're just going to call her Useless. She doesn't really do anything. She manages to find Tegan, only to practically immediately lose her again. So she's lost Tegan twice. She's over 2 at keeping up with Tegan. And the story would be no different if she wasn't there practically. The little bit with the crystal is interesting. It kind of plods a little bit, but again, I like that Davison is constantly trying to figure out what's going on. Watching him extrapolate as he's looking at the ruins and the hieroglyphics, trying to figure out what's going on, realizing the snake crystal is missing and needing to find it. I personally wonder if this big snake crystal was divided into miniature snake crystals, and that piece he has is just part of the great crystal and it has to be reassembled. But I did enjoy everything going on in part 2. It moved at a good pace. I found myself engaging with the story more. And again, I liked the cliffhanger. It was enough to where I was like, I'm actually looking forward to watching part 3. So it's got that in its favor, more so over Kenda, at least at this point. And I didn't necessarily hate part 1 of Snakedance. It was just kind of eh. But I did like part 2. It moved along pretty well. It kept me engaged. Again, the guest performances overall didn't really thrill me, but the couple I mentioned I liked. You know, the guy who's kind of the showman / conman, his performance doesn't really do much for me. The kind of prince or whatever he's supposed to be, his mom doesn't really do much for me. The guy who's kind of in charge of things, his performance is very two-dimensional and doesn't do a lot for me. That was probably in his casting notes, though. They're two-dimensional, not much going on. And the set design, again, doesn't really impress me. But the story I am engaging with. I am engaging with the story more. So that's a plus, enough to where I am actually looking forward to part 3. So Snakedance Part 2, I would like to know what you think of it. Comment down below and let me know. And don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button. I certainly appreciate that. That helps me out with the old YouTube algorithm. I also want to give a shout out to Simon, one of my subscribers who did send me Snakedance. He sent me a package recently with The Invisible Enemy and Snakedance in it. So it's nice to be able to watch those stories for the first time. So I really appreciate that, Simon. My P.O. box is down in the description if there's anything you would like to send me to look at and review. Because I can watch Region 1 and Region 2 stuff. I do have a region-free player, so I can watch Region 2 things if you want to send anything. I also have a Patreon if you would like to support me that way. There's a link to that down in the description below. I want to give a shout out to some of my top-tier patrons, Perkins, Colin Coney, and Stephen Crane. I appreciate their support as I do the support of all of my patrons. And I also have a link to my P.O. box, or a link to my P.O. box. I also have a link to my Amazon wish list down there as well. Most importantly, though, thank you for watching.